All right, well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this sunny, I think it's sunny, yes, sun is coming out, sunny Tuesday. I think everyone on this call is familiar with World Trade Center Seattle, but in case you're not, we are owned by the Port of Seattle, managed by Columbia Hospitality, and it is our mission to bring leaders together. So that happens through educational programs, social programs. Normally this time of year, we would be welcoming Fleet Week on the waterfront, and Navy League would be here right behind me in the Holland America Lane room. So while we're disappointed that that can't happen, we are very grateful for this opportunity. Thank you, Navy League, for allowing us to partner with you on this program. Thank you to our Admirals, Admiral Vogt and Admiral Barnett, for being with us today. We will hear from the Admirals in just a few minutes, but first let's turn it over to Steve Keith, the President of Seattle Navy League and co-host of today's event. Steve?
Yeah, good morning everyone to Ask the Admirals. This is a new event for our virtual Fleet Week 2020, co-sponsored by Navy League Seattle and the World Trade Center Seattle. We're really excited that both of the Admirals are able to join us today, and we think that this is a great format for the virtual Fleet Week. The session today will be, of course, live with all of you online, and is being recorded, and then it will be posted in our social media on Thursday. We'd also like to thank the sponsors for Seattle Navy League, who have made this the whole week possible, and you'll see their names there on the screen. Today we're honored to have the regional commanders for the Coast Guard and the Navy join us to respond directly to the questions that you have submitted. Let me briefly introduce the two admirals and invite them to give some opening remarks. Admiral Jack Vogt is the commander of Coast Guard District 13, encompassing Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. He is a 1987 graduate of the U.S. Coast Guard Academy, earned his wings as a naval aviator in 1990, and has flown the HH-65 and HH-60 helicopters, as well as the HC-130 aircraft. Along the way, he's earned master's degrees from Purdue and the National Defense University. Admiral Vogt assumed command of the 13th District in time for Seafair last year. Admiral Vogt, if you'd have a few opening remarks.
Super. Well, good morning, Steve, and thanks for the kind introduction. And certainly thanks to Seattle Navy League and the World Trade Center here in Seattle for hosting this great event, and just really privileged to be a part of it. On behalf of the 3,000 women and men serving here in the Pacific Northwest, thank you for letting us be a part of this virtual celebration of our sea services. Your Coast Guard is very active. Numerous search and rescue cases, law enforcement cases. Our role as environmental stewards in response to issues of environmental concern, oil spills, hazmat spills. The Coast Guard is busy and continuing our operations. I thought I'd share one thing that really signifies what the sea services are all about here in the Pacific Northwest. Behind my shoulder is a picture of Douglas Monroe, Signalman First Class, Coast Guard Medal of Honor winner, and a son of Washington, born in Cle Elum and now buried in Cle Elum. And Douglas Monroe was sent to reposition Marines at Guadalcanal who were under heavy fire to another location during that firefight and that battle, a significant battle in World War II, as you know. But Douglas Monroe left a U.S. Navy ship on a Coast Guard manned Higgins boat to support our United States Marines. The Sea Service is embodied in what Douglas Monroe did, and certainly a hero of the United States Coast Guard, a hero of our services. So again, Navy League, World Trade Center, a real pleasure to be here with BD, and look forward to the questions today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Also joining us is Admiral Stephen Barnett, Commander of Navy Region Northwest, supporting the Navy's third largest fleet concentration area here in Puget Sound, as well as Navy activities from Iowa to Alaska. He earned his bachelor's degree at Tennessee State and an MBA at Troy State, and was commissioned via Aviation Officer Candidate School in 1991. Operationally, he flew the P-3 long-range aircraft and been stationed here at Whidbey Island. Admiral Barnett assumed command of Navy Region Northwest in March of this year. Welcome, Admiral Barnett.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the great introduction. It's great to be on board here, talking to all the friends of the Sea Services. And thank you too, Jack. It's good to see you again, my friend. Just glad to be here. My wife, Naeem, and I were ecstatic when we found out we were coming back here to the area. This is where I did my first tour back in Whidbey Island. So we're glad to be back here. I've had a lot of friends. My first tour here, a lot of my friends and family came out and they were really excited about me coming back out here, not necessarily to see me, but to see the Pacific Northwest. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to make it yet, but I believe once the situation warrants, you're gonna see a lot more of my friends and family out here visiting. So that said, I'm really appreciative and blessed to be here in front of you today, and looking forward to your questions. And thanks a lot.
Oh, thank you, sir. So before we get to the questions and answers, we have a video that highlights Navy activities here in the Pacific Northwest as kind of a scene setter. And I'll let Jeff put that up for us, and then we'll turn over to Emily for the question and answer.
We'll give Jeff a minute to try and pull up the video. It was working perfectly before this started.
Of course.
And also, I realized during introductions, I forgot to introduce myself. So my name is Emily Cantrell, and I'm the director here at World Trade Center Seattle, and will be moderating the Q&A portion of this program.
And we're ready to roll video.
Hello, I'm Rear Admiral Stephen Barnett, Commander of Navy Region Northwest. I wanted to share with you a little information about your U.S. Navy here in the Northwest region. Navy Region Northwest has more than 200,000 sailors, civilian employees, military family members, retirees, and contractors across our 11-state area of responsibility, including right here at Washington State. Our presence in Puget Sound dates all the way back to 1841, and we are proud and feel fortunate to call this beautiful, beautiful place home. We have 4 major installations here in the Puget Sound area: Naval Air Station Whidbey Island, Naval Station Everett, Naval Base Kitsap, and Naval Magazine Indian Island. And we have various home-ported operational platforms, such as aircraft carriers, guided missile destroyers, submarines, the Ohio and the Seawolf, the EA-18 Growler, the P-8 Poseidon, which is a multi-mission aircraft, and our search and rescue helicopter, which performed over 40 missions to rescue folks right from our local communities last year. We care a great deal about the communities in which we live and work, and we do our best to support our shared environment. These Navy installations underpin the economic stability of our neighborhood communities. Even though sometimes the economy fluctuates, we contribute more than $10.7 billion to the state economy each year, and we generate nearly 80,000 jobs. The world is changing rapidly, and our nation is facing complex maritime security challenges. Your U.S. Navy is working to defend our nation from harm, to protect the American people, and preserve our way of life. But we could not accomplish this mission without the support of people like you, our communities. Your support means that we can continue to provide our men and women in uniform the vital training that they so desperately need to safely accomplish what our nation is asking of them. It is not only our duty, but our passion and our honor to serve and defend the American people. That is why many of us joined the Navy to begin with, to give back to this nation and serve a purpose greater than ourselves. We promise to continue working hard to deter aggression from enemies, to maintain the freedom of the seas, and to keep those global shipping lanes open to allow commerce to flow around the world, including our major ports here at Seattle and Tacoma. So on behalf of the entire Northwest Navy family, I thank you for your continued support of your U.S. Navy. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Admiral Barnett, for that video. Thank you, Admiral Vogt, for being here as well, and Jeff for playing AV. I know it can be a really stressful job during these. So let's get started. Admirals, if you had to sum up in one word or one sentence, what is the best part about being an admiral?
I guess I'll go with that. We don't always get it right, but having the opportunity to serve those we are privileged to lead.
Well, and I agree with what Jack said there, but I would also like to add that it's also a great opportunity to be able to make a change. And I think when you get to be where Jack and I sit, you know, we're afforded a lot of opportunities to make change, particularly when dealing with our, you know, with our community or with our actual service. So I think that's awesome.
Thank you both. So first question that we will get to, and also if anyone attending would like to ask a question, feel free to put it in the chat box, or you can also use the Q&A function. We are monitoring both of those, but we did have questions that were submitted ahead of time during the registration process. So we'll get started with those while we monitor the chat. So first of all, there were a couple of COVID related questions. And William Larson from Larson Financial Group was wondering, since our Navy and Coast Guard can't really work from home during this time, what should we know about how your teams are dealing with it? Either one of you feel free to jump.
Okay. Sir, I'll go ahead and go first then, I guess, that since you jumped on the other one. So we're handling it pretty well. The one thing that I will tell you is that with regard to the Coast Guard and the Navy, so I'm speaking on behalf of the Navy here, is that we are operational 24/7. And around the world and around the clock, regardless of the situation. So whether it's a pandemic or whether it's any other type of similar situation, we just have to adapt to it, which is what we're pretty good at. So we're able to balance the mission essential personnel with also the mission that the tenants of our installations have. It hasn't been easy, but it's doable. What I've learned a lot is, and I'm sure Jack has also, is I've learned how to use Zoom, which I never had used before, and it actually creates you know, a better type of environment for me to reach more people. It's also identified some areas that we need to work on, such as our infrastructure for technology and things like that. So I think we're going well, and if we do have to, you know, telework again or go into a situation where we have to, we'll have the skill set that we can do. As a matter of fact, and before I dialed in here, I actually had a staff meeting, and I had 40 people on there. And then last week, I actually had an all hands with over 250 folks. So I'm actually able to reach more people by using this type of medium in the environment. But it hasn't been easy, but I think we're doing a good balance at it, and we're able to take care of our sailors and take care of their families. So that's what's important.
Reaching more people, it's definitely a silver lining of COVID.
It is, it is.
Admiral Vogt, how about you?
Yeah, great points, BD. I would echo a lot of what Admiral Barnett said, and would just add, you know, ironically, in this unique time in our nation's history, we are busier than ever, actually more busy than we've ever been statistically, with our search and rescue cases, our law enforcement missions in support of preserving our critical fisheries offshore and here in the Puget Sound, and then certainly in support of BD and his team and our friends in the United States Navy. Coast Guard forces provide the maritime security for our strategic national assets as they transit through the Sound and through the Straits out to conduct missions, global missions. Very proud of that. And many of the comments that BD made with regard to enhancing our capability and capacity with virtual connectivity has been critical to us getting our job done, staying connected to our workforce and our personnel. But many of our missions, we have direct interaction with the public we serve. You can imagine doing a boarding on a fishing vessel, a search and rescue case. And early on in this effort, we made it a priority to ensure that our people had the proper PPE to wear, protective equipment to wear. Hygiene was stressed throughout, and as much as possible in conducting our ops, maintaining social distancing to ensure their safety as well as the safety of the people we serve. And thus far, we've been pretty successful in keeping our people healthy and well as ensuring their readiness to conduct our critical missions. Thank you.
Perfect. So you actually partially answer the next question that someone had, which was around key successful measures with regards to controlling COVID-19 spread internally and externally. So it sounds like proper PPE, physical distancing. Is there anything else that you would add to that? Any extra steps that you've taken?
Yeah, I could offer this as a comparative analysis. many of our units in the Coast Guard operate like a fire department. We have duty sections who stand the watch 24/7. They stand it overnight and they respond to search and rescue cases or law enforcement cases. And one of the things we've done within those rotations for our naval personnel, a port and starboard watch or a 1 and 3 watch, is devise alternate work schedules so that at our units, we divide up our crews in the situation where one person does become symptomatic or someone tests positive. We don't bring the whole unit down, thus ensuring our readiness. How about you, BD?
Yes, sir. That's spot on. It's same here. We do things like, for instance, if our naval support personnel, our police officers are doing a turnover, we don't get together again and do the whole big, the police turnover. We do it outside. We do it spaced 6 feet between each other, so we don't, have that. Same thing with our CDCs, which are our child development centers and things like that. Is we have to maintain distance when we're doing turnovers. We do these things called cohorts, to where we, in addition to checking temperatures, we have a 5-list questionnaire that we ask everybody when they come in. Hey, have you been traveling? How do you feel? Then we take their temperature. So we ask those questions, we take temperatures, and then we can better judge things like that. Key to this has been both Jack and I's alignment with the state. Matter of fact, about 2 weeks ago, I got off a phone call with the governor and also with our joint partner down in the Army side, Lieutenant General George, to kind of see where they are, where are they aligning? How are they doing? Unfortunately, a lot of times from all of us here, including Jack, we have to maintain a more restrictive posture than what may happen outside of the base or out in town. So that's been a difficult thing sometimes to explain to folks of why we have to maintain a little bit tighter control over some things that we do, whether it's getting haircuts, things like that. One thing I will tell you is that one challenge that we had was, how do we feed our sailors? How do you do that? Well, we developed a process to where we have box lunches, and it's not the old school box lunches that I'm sure Jack and I remember. It's actually a nice, warm, hot meal. So we had to develop that. How do you do that? What do you do with your salad bar? Just all different kind of things that we never really thought of. And then for those sailors, or those Marines, or our Coast Guard brothers and sisters that are on our bases, what if they do get sick? How do we take care of them? So our sailors stood up, and we have some folks that actually go door to door from a safe distance. That we take down orders if they need anything from the exchange or the commissary. So we make runs like that, things like that have really made me feel good, and how we're meeting this head on. And what it's created is, when this first happened, I told my staff that there's innovation that we're going to find out through this process. So it's up to us to find those innovative points, put them in a lessons learned, and pass them down so we can, so I can pass them to Jack, or we can pass them down to Lieutenant General George, and place, and people like that, and pass it across the Navy enterprise. For me, I'm in communications with the other regimental commanders, particularly the ones from overseas. And if you remember, it moved this way from overseas. So I was able to kind of get a lead on some things that we could kind of, something as simple as ordering extra boxes for those box lunches, things like that. So it has been a challenge, but I think that we've risen to the challenge.
Thank you for that. It's all really interesting, and it sounds like you've both done an excellent job adapting during these times. The last question that we received related to COVID, someone was wondering, with the current environment, do you think there will be any impact to military missions or deployments at home or abroad?
For me, we haven't had any impact, and I don't anticipate that we will. Key to it is the communication portion of it. With respect to the installations, from my side of the house, I have to maintain a good communications with our sailors and their chain of command. So my counterpart up here, for instance, let's just say it's the PSNS or the shipyard, or whether it's Rear Admiral Perry from the sub side of the house. If they have an issue, we immediately swarm it, and we swarm on that issue. And if we need to separate people and get them to a safe place, so that's the key, which has kept our mission accomplishment rate very high. So I don't have any concerns on that. So over to Jack for his thoughts.
Very much in the same vein, we are doing the same thing. As a matter of fact, just a week and a half ago, the Coast Guard Cutter Healy, one of United States' 2 icebreakers, departed for the Arctic, and we have one of our Coast Guard cutters is offshore right now, Washington, Oregon coast, conducting that vital fisheries law enforcement mission. But in both cases, we are getting the mission done. To specifically answer the question, but we are adding more time to the pre-deployment scenarios to conduct testing, to isolate our crews, to make sure that when they get offshore in that operational environment, that they are not impacted by COVID on board the vessel and then need to return. But we are poised to respond if that happens with crew swap outs or evacuate those crew members and make sure they get the health, the care that they need to ensure their safety and wellness. Thank you.
Thanks. Emily, one thing I'd like to add that we're doing is something called sentinel testing. So what we're doing is with our operational assets, we're doing random testing. So we'll pick a group and we'll do a test and we'll see, you know, if there's any type of, obviously any positives, but any type of trend analysis that we can see from that. So, and then we pass that information along.
Very cool. How long does it take for you to get your test results? Just curious.
Yeah, that's, I think that's been a question for a while. I think last check, about a week, maybe.
Okay.
A week or less. But that's kind of where what I've seen lately.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. So moving on, one of our attendees is wondering if you can, this is for Admiral Barnett, if you can provide an update on the status of the SEAL training and growler noise issues. Larry from Navy League, he was asking what Navy League can do to support your efforts in obtaining state permission to use state parks for SEAL training and in resolving the growler noise issue at Whidbey Island.
Okay, thanks a lot. That's a great question, Larry. First, I appreciate all the support that the Navy League has been providing. To the main concern that I have is getting the truth out there. A lot of times, you know, things get out, they get in social media, you know, and it takes legs, and it's not necessarily the truth or all the truth. They're both two difficult issues to understand. So I definitely appreciate the continued support from the Navy League and just, you know, telling what the mission is and getting that word out. And for those who don't know, there's 2 items here. The special warfare training, you know, our SEAL teams that they come up from Coronado and they want to utilize some of our parks in our local areas because it's got very, very cold water and it's good for their training. So it's their final battle problem before they deploy to a colder weather area. So they need what we have here, which is the water, the shoreline, and the different environments that they can get to. We typically have been utilizing state parks. We've been doing that for 30 years, haven't had an issue. And part of it is the key is to be covert. There's the belief out there that, let's just say we're out there, a family's out there and they are at a state park and they're camping out and they're cooking s'mores. There's a belief that the SEALs are going to overtake them and run right by them. And that's not the intent of the training. The intent is to remain covert. It's very, very low impact. As a matter of fact, in December of last year, we did an environmental assessment and it was a finding of no significant impact. So we're pretty clear with that. And my goal with both of these topics is to go above and beyond. So I'm trying to be transparent as much, well, I will be transparent as much as possible, talking to the community and everyone else that's involved because we have nothing to hide. So where we stand with that right now is we are waiting. We're still working with the parks, with the state park folks, with the commission to give them the information that they need so they can support our request. We're also working with any private individuals that have land in that area so we can work out leasing agreements with them on that. So we're tracking. It's a matter of fact, last week I talked to the State Parks Commission. So we're tracking and asking them what do they need from us to facilitate this. And I feel like we're giving them everything that we need right now. So the second thing is the growler noise. As you know, that's been a concern with a lot of the individuals here in the state, particularly up in the Whidbey Island area. So for those who don't know, the Growler is our only platform that allows us to do that type of jamming training. It's the only place in the world, in the nation, where we can do that. And it's a joint asset. So there are other services that are utilizing that asset with us, and it's what the warfighter needs. So the National Defense Authorization Act 2020, the most recent one, it directed us to perform some sound level monitoring. So that's what we're in the process of doing right now. They also requested that we do it, that the monitoring happen at a base in California, so we can compare the two to see, you know, what the noise levels actually are. So we're still tracking for that. We'll be totally transparent with what the contractor, what the third party brings forth from the sound monitoring, and we're hoping to have that, I think, by the end of next year. So I think the sound monitoring systems will be going in place here soon by the end of this year, and we'll be tracking to provide as much information as we can.
Thank you so much, Admiral Barnett.
Thank you.
Admiral Vogt, question for you. Rich from the Transportation Institute, he said that he's been told that the 13th U.S. Coast Guard District is the most environmentally responsible district in the nation and has the best record of spill prevention. He's wondering, why do you think this is the case? And also, could it have anything to do with the value that the Pacific Northwest citizens place on our natural resources and marine creatures?
Well, certainly thanks for that. Great question, Rich, and I'll take the compliment and pass it on to the team. We certainly make that a priority in this region, and Emily, the second part of that question makes the point. Without a doubt, throughout the Coast Guard, in our role as environmental stewards, safety and security in the maritime domain, we are absolutely enforcing the regulations to preserve our pristine environment, to preserve those fisheries. And the difference, in my experience, and this is a personal perception in my experience, the difference here is exactly what you said. Individual citizens and the maritime industry are personally committed, leaders in the industry are committed to preserving the environment in which they operate. And I think it really boils down to the fact that on these beautiful weekends, on these beautiful days, summer days here in the Pacific Northwest, we are all on the water. We are all enjoying the water and what it means to be a part of this Puget Sound, this Salish Sea community. And anyone who works in the industry feels the same way, and therefore on a personal level maintains their own level of stewardship and responsibility to preserving just this beautiful Pacific Northwest. So thank you, great question.
Okay, so switching gears now, and Admiral Barnett, this one was directed to you, but I think both of you might want to answer this one. This comes from Anita from the Port of Seattle. And Anita says the Navy claims October 13th, 1775 as the date of its official establishment, when the Second Continental Congress passed a resolution creating the Continental Navy. And Anita is wondering why, with the existing barriers, why does it take so long for women of color to advance?
That's a great question. And what I'll tell you is that I won't begin to speculate about why it's taking so long. But what I could tell you is that as we all are aware, is that there's systemic racism in America and in the country. And there's gender inequalities across across the enterprise, both inside of the military and outside. And sometimes those biases come from outside, they come inside. So I'm fully aware that they are there here within our organizations. So, in my opinion, I think the first thing that we need to do is to have these conversations. Right after the murder of Mr. Floyd, Chief of Naval Operations reached out, and he had a communication with the entire Navy. And what I did immediately after that was I started having conversations with my sailors and my civilians. I sent an email out to just request just that. It's a time to sit down and talk and listen, and to put everything to the side, put all your biases and just listen. And that was received very well, I believe. I had a lot of comments back from individuals. And I also had conversations with folks that were, other flag officers too. And I was approached by a lot of other flag officers to have this discussion. And it was good to have this discussion to not just talk about race, but also about gender inequality and all the different isms. So I think we have some more work to do. And I think part of it is just the continued communications. On the second side, though, is to get at the systematic racism. The Navy has developed something called Task Force One. And what this task force is doing is it's getting at just the question that was raised. It started meeting this past, I think 2 weeks ago, and it has a due out to this. The first due out to the CNO is at the end of this week. And I think the final project is due out at the end of the year. And some things that they're trying to get at is recruiting, diversity training, detailing, which for us, that's how we assign folks to orders and where they go next, because you need to have those folks in the competitive job so they can continue to promote. Things like fitness reports, evaluations, promotions, advancement, military justice, is it fair and equitable across the Navy? And things like healthcare and and the differences in the healthcare. So we are looking at all of that right now. And I've got one of my mentors, Rear Admiral Alvin Halsey. He is the two-star that's heading this out, along with some very other sharp civilians. And it's got, they had their first sit-down talk with sailors and civilians in Norfolk most recently. So we see there's a problem, and I'm looking forward to being part of that solution and to have these conversations.
Love that. Thank you. Admiral Vogt, do you have anything you want to add to this question?
Yeah, please, and thank you. And certainly would echo everything that BD said. And I think transparency is a huge part of this. And as our nation is confronting racial and social justice issues and leading to unrest, but also leading to a dialogue that is more honest and straightforward than we've seen arguably at any time in our nation's history. Well, that is reflected in our Coast Guard as well. And as BD said, the Navy and the other branches of the armed forces are having those conversations. And part of that is just being honest with where we are as an organization. And factually, the United States Coast Guard has essentially the same percentage of African Americans in service as we did in 1970. We've worked at recruiting a more diverse workforce, but we haven't done a good job of retaining that workforce. And I think it's important for us, and what we're really focusing on is how do we create a more inclusive Coast Guard that welcomes everyone, so that those young women and men coming in the service now look up and see senior leaders who, it's just one element of diversity, but just don't see white males in leadership roles, but see an opportunity for them to move up and be a leader in our organization. Some of the greatest dialogue, some of the greatest conversations and greatest suggestions on how our Coast Guard improve are coming out of our local field level, unit level leadership, diversity, and advisory committees, providing really good practical and applicable ideas to help our Coast Guard improve. And then along the same lines as the task force that BD mentioned, the Coast Guard literally yesterday formally released what's been in play for quite a while, but our diversity, inclusion, and action plan. But part of that release yesterday was every senior leader in the Coast Guard, senior executive, senior flag officer, we had a full morning of training and honest dialogue on how we, by example, can lead our Coast Guard to lead this branch of the armed service to be more diverse through inclusion. So I'll close there. Thank you. Great question.
Thank you both for your answers. And our country, systemic racism, this is a 400-year-old issue. And the fact that these conversations are taking place now, I know for me, it gives me hope. Then it sounds like a lot of organizations are not just wanting to check the box anymore. They actually want to take meaningful action. So thank you for everything that you both are doing.
Thank you.
So kind of along those same lines, we have a couple of questions that are relatively similar, so I'm going to try and combine them. But Consuelo from the Port of Seattle, she had talked about, Admiral Vogt, as you just talked about, the Silver Tsunami, mostly white males who are holding these positions. The Port of Seattle is focusing on developing maritime career pathways. But both of these questions, people are wondering, what can they do to help with the worker shortage and increase the diversity and access to maritime careers? More specifically, what advice would you offer to encourage high school seniors or newly minted college graduates who are seeking opportunities and employment? I'll let whoever wants to take this on first.
Sir, I guess I'll go ahead and take this now, since you finished the last one. Yes, that's a very good, one of my tenets when I came here from DC was I definitely wanted to plug into the STEM process and those organizations that are supporting the STEM, which, as we know, science, technology, engineering, and math. Back in a previous life, I was an engineer. I chose to join the Navy after college, but I still consider myself an engineer. And I understand how important STEM is in the process. If you look at the local community here, we'll take, for instance, Puget Sound Naval Shipyard. I know they are looking at how they can promote the best to bring into their organization. And from an installation and region side, we're just the same. So I know the hard part is that we are fighting with the other, there's a big race for talent. So the key is, how do we get at that talent? And we need to start early at that talent. I think if you're waiting for to the very end, if you're waiting to the end of high school, and if you're waiting to the end of college to get those, those sharp folks that give your organization lifeblood, you probably waited too long. Yesterday or last week, I actually did a Zoom mentorship session with a small group called the Red Tails, which are it's an organization that introduces minority youth and majority youth to aviation. It was a great opportunity. I got a lot of hard questions. A lot of really, really hard questions that made me scratch my head. And so I think that's how we have to actually get at that, is we need to start early in introducing the maritime services to our community, to our parents, so we remain a viable option. We got to get in there early and get that done. So right now, I know that in the region, we have over 25,000 jobs. So I need sharp people. I need those folks in here helping me to lead the nation, to lead this region, and therefore lead the nation. I look at Puget Sound Shipyard, where I live right here on the base, and I think they have 14,000 folks here. And whenever I'm driving into work every morning, I see them crossing the crosswalks. And it makes me smile, because these folks are going to work, they're building ships, they're working 3D printers, they're doing all kind of awesome stuff that I think that our youth definitely need to be a part of. So.
Thank you. Admiral Vogt, any advice?
Yeah, thanks, Speedy. And I would echo the same. Certainly within our organization, our partnership and education programs, we recently set up a partnering effort with the University of Washington, Tacoma, which is majority underrepresented minorities, to work with them on engineering initiatives and environmental stewardship issues that can help the Coast Guard, help the broader community, but maybe interest them in those maritime professions moving forward, and maybe the Coast Guard or the Navy as well. I mentioned that retention is an area that we, the Coast Guard, really want to focus on. Recruiting, we're doing pretty well. I will just say the Coast Guard Academy this past year graduated the most diverse class in its history, and the greatest number of females in the history of the institution. And part of keeping them, retaining them, is helping them understand, embrace our organizational core values of honor, respect, devotion to duty. What does it mean to serve? They have the affinity for service, but keeping them as part of our service is critical. And bring them in education, skill sets, growth, and knowledge. And then there is some good in some of those wonderful young women and men that we bring into the service that maybe they don't serve a full career. Both organizations are looking at different options as far as, when people retire and get out. So I would offer for the maritime community here in the Puget Sound area, connecting with the Navy, connecting with the Marines, connecting with the Coast Guard on who is departing the service. How do I bring those well-trained professionals
Right.
who have an aptitude for service and have lived by values of honor, respect, devotion to duty. Thank you.
Great. And going back to, you mentioned partnership with University of Washington Tacoma. Laura was asking specifically, has there been any progress to get the Seattle Public Schools to allow military recruiting or junior ROTC programs in the high schools? Do either of you have an answer for that?
I know, and that's one area where I usually engage is with the NJ ROTC. I do know that we have that here in the Kitsap area. And I've been meaning to get there, you know, obviously with COVID and things in the school not being around, you know, not being able to engage. They were definitely on my list of folks to visit. I do know across the enterprise, across the Navy, I do know there's always as with everything, there's always a fight for funding to keep those organizations up and going. So I think that the way that we can keep that Navy presence there is by, we need to focus on the few that we have. And then we also need to use our sailors from the Navy side in the volunteering type of programs, you know, to going to the schools, to doing things. And that's one thing at a previous command when I was the command officer down in California of one of the naval air stations. That was what really energized our sailors, was getting out, being part of the community, going to the high schools, going to the junior high schools, not as a recruiting tool, but just more of as a, hey, you know, you get to see the uniform and you get to ask questions, and then the parents get comfortable with it. So, you know, you don't want, you know, I know how I would feel if someone showed up at the last minute knocking on my door wanting to recruit my child, or, you know, something like that. So, and I'm a firm believer, once somebody gets out, you know, I check in every person, civilian or military, that comes into my headquarters, and also check them out. And the reason I really want to check them out is because I tell them, when you leave, you're still a sailor. So I need your help. You know, PSNS needs your help. You know, we need, you know, and I still expect them to mentor. I told my folks, particularly when all the things started going down here in the country, you know, to make sure you mentor one person that looks like you and one person that doesn't look like you. And you know, and I think that helps. That will help get the process going. But yes, it's all about the partnerships. I do know that PSNS partners with Olympic College here. So there are opportunities, and I can make sure that I get back with you to let you kind of know what the partnerships and where we're linked. So that way we can throw those to you, and you can, you know, you guys can be a part as you see fit.
Thank you. And then a quick follow-up question on that. Scroll. So how do you see the engagement with the Sea Cadet program, and how do they stand out or perform for those who do enter the Coast Guard or Navy?
If I may, I'll add this one. I was going to mention some of our partnerships, and one of the programs that we're incredibly proud of in working with the Navy League is our partnership on the Sea Cadet program. We also, of course, with JROTC programs in the area. And our waterfront base, downtown Seattle, hosts the Sea Cadets for their periodic training. I will say, and the question focused on, you know, where are we with engagement with the public school system and how is that evolving? Clearly, the current corona crisis has changed that dynamic. And I would say, you know, not due to any specific organization, literally due to the situation in which we all live now, is that some of that momentum has probably been lost because we're losing that face-to-face, that critical face-to-face interaction, embracing virtual opportunities, and we plan on continuing that. One thing I'll add, you know, as far as the dialogue, creating new ways to interest young women and men in the sea service or careers in the maritime community. And one of the things we're really looking at is getting our recruiters out of the strip malls and getting our recruiters to serve on our bases or potentially serve in the vicinity of those junior college programs, community college programs, closer to the populations and more involved, more engaged, along with our active duty members in reaching out to young women and men when they're in middle school, when they're in high school early on, because as BD said, it's too late if you walk in the door when they're a senior in high school. they feel like, and rightfully so, it's an afterthought to try to bring me into the Coast Guard or the Navy or the Marines. And so some changes being looked at. So thank you.
So Seafair is typically, it's such a great recruiting tool that a lot of us can take for granted. Do you have a message for anyone watching who's an avid Seafair fan and looks forward to Fleet Week and, you know, the Blue Angels? Any message for them in particular?
Well, I'd say, I mean, BD's a good looking man, but neither of us are looking as good as a Blue Angel. So I just feel bad that we're not having those meaningful connections with the Torchlight Parade and everything else that goes with Seafair and Fleet Week. But a real credit to everyone involved, you, Emily, and the World Trade Center folks, on doing our best in this virtual environment to keep the momentum going on sharing the value of our sea services.
And I agree with that. I don't agree that I'm good looking, but Jack, we got to get you in a flight suit. You got to bring your bag and come over here and hang out with us sometime. And I agree with everything they said. You know, I was really so looking forward to getting downtown and you know, walking around and shaking hands and visiting folks. And it's just a dream deferred. So next year, I'm sure we'll be tracking back and forth, doing things. And because, I mean, I don't want to say I like sitting behind a desk, but I'll tolerate it. But there's nothing better than getting down and you know, smelling some salt water and seeing some ships and meeting who we serve. Because as I said in the video, that's why we do it. You know, that's exactly why we do it. And it recharges our batteries. Batteries don't recharge by sitting in an office. Batteries recharge by getting out and seeing the sailors, you know, and hearing what's going on and talking to them. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. And for those folks that are looking for opportunities, Jack and I just reach out to our staffs and we can make sure that we get them in the respective service. I'm not going to argue with Jack over who's going to get what. We'll just take, you know, you know, you get one, I get one, and we'll go back and forth like that. But definitely looking forward to continue our relationship and working with you.
Okay. We have a few more questions before we turn things back over to Steve. One question is, how can volunteer organizations best engage with active duty military members and retirees in leadership opportunities and direct service opportunities?
Okay, sir, you want me to take that one? I'll start with that. The first thing I would say is that key to the end, we are in the community, and that's what I tell a lot of folks. We're part of the community. We just, you know, our sailors live primarily in the community. So, and we're neighbors. And I think the best thing that neighbors do is neighbors ask when they need help or when they think you can do, or when something can be done. So just ask a sailor. Particularly, like I was told when I was coming up in the Navy, go ask your chief. So I would say the first place to start will be at an installation or that command with that senior enlisted advisor, that CMC, that senior chief, that will then point us in the, you know, get you pointed in the right direction. You can always ask an installation CO or XO or somebody of that nature, but I would say you start at the junior level and work your way out, because our sailors are looking for things like that. I mean, and that's one thing that I really miss doing is, you know, going out and, you know, visiting schools, you know, volunteering, doing things, painting houses, doing things, which is what was part of Fleet Week. You know, I was looking at some of the Comrail things that we did last time, and it was just like, you know, that's what we really like to do. So just reach out and let us know. And I can't imagine that anyone would say no.
Yeah, great answer. I love that response and would echo that. And really not an issue with many of the people that are online today. Certainly our Navy League, because our Navy League goes above and beyond in supporting the sea services, right, reaching out and making those connections on a volunteer basis. So thank you for that. And it is true. Our very similar to the Navy, but to some extent even more so. We don't have the large base construct, and so almost every single active duty Coast Guard woman and man is living in the community, either single or with their families. And I think it's, and we see that time and time again, being neighborly and reaching out, and hopefully you see the same thing from our armed forces personnel, and contributing to their local community, giving back, the ones who are volunteering and coaching and doing those things. And again, a lot of that challenged right now in the world in which we live, but I've never seen a greater group of volunteers than those who wear the uniform, and certainly as well as our Navy League, World Trade Center, and partners. So thank you.
Thank you. And one question that Laura Mathers asked that I'm sure we are all wondering, how can we best support the men and women in our community serving our country? How can we help you?
Well, I guess, sir, I'll take that one in. I would say from the Navy point of view is if you could just keep our story out there, keep what you're seeing the sailors doing. And the key, like I mentioned earlier, is the accuracy of it. A lot of times things get out there and they get legs and it gets into the, I call it into the Google machine or the intranets, and it just goes and it takes legs of itself. And you're like, well, that's not necessarily true. Now, and a lot of the topics and things that we do and discuss are very difficult, like I mentioned earlier. But key is that if you could just tell the Navy story and then if, and point folks, back to the source, back to the Navy if they need good questions. We have a great public affairs team. We have guidance out there that we can easily share and make those available to folks just so we can get the truth out there. And I'll throw it over to Jack for his points.
No, I think the ongoing efforts of everyone who's joined us today, especially through organizations like the Navy League and Sea Cadets, maintaining that connection, that connectivity. But I tell you, in the current environment, one area that's really coming to bear and to create a challenge for our Coast Guard, especially our Coast Guard families, and I'm sure the Navy's the same way. When that icebreaker Healy departed for the Arctic, when our Coast Guard cutter departed offshore or headed overseas, conducting operations in the Eastern Pacific or the South China Sea, your Coast Guard is there. They left behind their families, they left behind their loved ones. And one thing in particular, with many, many school districts announcing changes to their approach to school in the fall, we have many young families who rely on both parents providing income or both serve. I just welcomed a new young officer to our unit, and her husband is an officer serving with the Navy up in Whidbey. And both committed to serving our nation, to serving our communities, but they have children. And how do they manage school? How do they manage childcare? And looking for those opportunities in the communities, people who are online today who know about possibilities as our COVID social distancing and safety protocols allow us to maybe branch out a little bit more. That is the most recent challenge facing our Coast Guard women and men, and we're working together. I got to say, our chiefs, BD talked earlier about Ask the Chief. Our chiefs are taking that one head on and really working hard for our people, and they're the right people to make that happen. So thank you.
Thank you both. And final question before we turn things back over to Steve to close this out. We'll be respectful of everyone's time. Is there anything that you wish we had asked that we did not? And if not, you can leave us with one piece of advice, a takeaway. But if there's anything that you really wanted to talk about and we didn't get to, please do. And Admiral Barnett, how about we start with you?
Oh, how did I know you were going to start with me? So if there's one thing, first thing I would say is please, please, please wear a mask. Because that's very, I think that's very key to us getting back to whatever that new normal is going to be. And the second thing I will say is that I truly appreciate the opportunity to be here in the Pacific Northwest and to be serving with you guys and to be serving for you. I get to work with great Americans like Jack, and it's just an awesome opportunity. Like I said, help us tell our story, help us tell the Navy story, and we are so appreciative. I know I'm personally appreciative of the Navy League. Wherever I've been, they've always been a staunch supporter of the Navy and our sailors and our families. And for every one person that gets underway, there's probably someone had told me it's a 1-to-7 ratio of folks back back home that support them as they get out. And I think the number is even a higher number than 7. But just keep doing what you're doing. Thank you for the opportunity. I couldn't think of a better place to be, and I'm looking forward to once this kind of clears up for me getting down and getting around the city and seeing each and every one of you guys. So thank you.
Thank you, Admiral Barnett, and thank you for going first so many times during this program.
I'm the junior guy. I'm the junior guy. I can see Jack telling me to go.
Admiral Vogt, any final words from you?
No, I will say thanks, PD, for going first. But you wowed them with your answers, so you left me speechless, man. Nothing to say. But well done. I would just like to add, just for awareness and information, the Coast Guard is very excited. I know the Navy is looking at repositioning some assets up to this region in the coming years, but we are bringing the first of our 3 polar security cutters are coming to downtown Seattle. The Commandant's made a decision. We are actively working the shore infrastructure requirements there in partnership with many in the maritime community, certainly the Port of Seattle, the Northwest Seaport Alliance. We are also bringing our offshore patrol cutters, our newest class of cutters, multi-mission, conduct all of our missions here in the Pacific Northwest, but they'll be able to operate in the Bering Sea fisheries, traverse the Pacific to support our national defense, national security goals overseas. And then finally, our fast response cutters, which are going to be force multipliers here, especially in the Pacific Northwest. We are excited that they're going to be based here in this region. We're bringing them in. The Coast Guard is moving ahead, and it's exciting for everyone on board on the call today who cares about our sea services and cares about a working waterfront that contributes so much economically to this great and beautiful region. And then I'll just close by saying, hey, thanks to the Navy League, thanks to the World Trade Center. Just a real pleasure to be with you today, and look forward to any follow-up. And just thanks so much.
Great. Thank you both, Admiral Vogt, Admiral Barnett. You were great. Steve, you want to close us out?
Yes, thank you, Emily. Thank you to you and the World Trade Center for co-hosting this new event for us, making part of Virtual Fleet Week. Thank you, Admirals and audience, for joining us today in Ask the Admirals. Recording of today's webinar will be posted on Thursday at the Navy League Seattle Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn pages with the hashtag Fleet Week Seattle. And that's the key to finding all things Virtual Fleet Week, is the hashtag Fleet Week Seattle. Thank you all for joining us today, and enjoy the rest of Virtual Fleet Week 2020.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.